There's a bigger dream waiting for you, just waiting for you to step into it. Everything you try to do is already done. So when I figured that out, oh, what I'm putting out is what's coming back. Let me get real clear about what it is I'm putting out. Real clear. So I read a book about 1989 called Seed of the Soul. And in that book, Gary Zukav talked about the laws of karma, of the laws of cause and effect, the third law of motion. And in that book, he talked about how intention, your intention is always one with the law. Meaning, before you even think about a thing, you have an intention for the thing. And that the intention is going to determine the outcome. That's why the same people can go to the same church service and somebody walk down the aisle just to be seen to put some money in the church, and somebody else who just goes and just has a little bit to offer. The intention with which you give, the intention with which you serve determines the outcome. So when I figured that out, I went, whoa, I changed everything I did on my show. I called in the producers and I said, from this day forward, I will no longer be speaking to the KKK. I will no longer be speaking to people who are fighting each other in a way that it is damaging to the character of myself and other people who watch. From this day forward, I am only going to do intentional television. So it is my intention to fulfill the dream of the Creator. It is my intention to live to the highest calling and be pressed to the mark of the highest calling that I have come to do. And when you can ask the Creator, ask that which made you you, what is your dream for me? I guarantee you, instead of you trying to define the dream, what is your dream for me? If you're able to lean into the dream that the universe and all the forces of light and love and power and grace by all the names that we call God has for you, nobody can touch you. Every single day, I would have a pre-show meeting and have the producers come in and state to me, what is your intention? How do we want to use whoever is on this show, whatever is happening on this show, to serve the audience in a way that fulfills the mission of uplifting, enlightening, encouraging, as well as entertaining. And if it doesn't do that, then I can't do it. There's a bigger dream waiting for you, just waiting for you to step into it. To step into it. Your life is big. Your life is huge. And we spend so much time wanting to be in somebody else's life. And you don't get honored, you don't get revered, you don't get celebrating wanting what somebody else has, because that which created you, divine intelligence that dreamed you from before your ancestors ever knew they would become your ancestors, that which dreamed the seed of you, wants you to know how special, how wondrous, how mysterious, how complex, how glorious, how phenomenal you are. And you get no credit messing in somebody else's territory.
Some people are born with extraordinary size, strength, speed, and talent, but without determination, that talent never flourishes. Because determination is what turns average men and women into winners. No one is born a world champion. just like no one is born a brain surgeon. The successful do what they must, what they can to be the best, to be number one. For me, it was a 5-mile run at 5 a.m. in the morning. For you, maybe continue to be the leader in payroll and human resource industry. And these may be somewhat of a painful sacrifice, but it is this type of determination that just happens to build tremendous confidence. Confidence in knowing that most likely your competitors are not doing the same sacrifices. Determination gives you that, it gives you that mental edge.
The secret to change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but building the new you. Put all your energy, not fighting the old, but building the new you. So what is it that you have to do in order to do that? Number one, self-awareness. See, at the end of the day, all of us are the same. The only thing that separates us are the choices we make, the habits that we embrace. And I realize you've got to sacrifice who you've been in 2020. You got to sacrifice whoever that person was. You got to let it go. You got to sacrifice that and put all of your time and energy on building the new you. And building the new you, in my particular case, is more discipline. In my particular case, monitoring myself and my progress, staying on top of it, watching, am I doing well? Am I moving in the direction where I want to move? To give up the things that will distract me from doing that, to make the sacrifice of some things that I enjoy doing, but I can't afford to do it because it's soaking up time, and time is life. Time is life.
Learn to work with the people who deserve it, not the people who need it. You must be like life itself. Respond to deserve, not to need. It doesn't say if you need, you will have a harvest. It doesn't say if you need a harvest, you'll have a harvest. It's not what it says. It says if you plant, chances are good you'll have a harvest. If you plant, you will reap. Not if you need, you will reap. So we must be like life itself. Respond to the people who deserve it by planting, by taking the first step. Even God himself says, if you move toward me, I'll move toward you. That's the condition. You move toward me, I'll move toward you, says the Almighty. When babies are born, they were not designed just to be carried. Babies were not born to be carried all their life. Someday you've got to try your legs. Someday you've got to try your wings. Someday you've got to try. Even if you fall down, you've got to try, because you can't just crawl around all your life. You can't be carried all your life.
You have the ability to create and design the kind of life that you want. And in this place where we are right now, things have changed dramatically. And so you have to make a dramatic change in yourself in order to accomplish the things that you want. What does that look like? What is it you have to do? In my case, mine and my battle has been with cancer, 4th stage. That looks like intensifying my efforts and monitoring everything that I eat. It has to be organic. My state of mind, keeping stress to a minimum. I don't play that. Anything that's unhealthy, anybody that's unhealthy for me, I cut off the relationship. I don't ask them, why did you do that? I cut it off. Why? It's my life. See, we got enough to deal with. When you got the coronavirus that has now mutated into another lethal form and easier to spread, that kind of tension and stress by itself is enough. So you're not given the luxury of accommodating toxic, negative people in your life if you want to live.
If you follow anything or a lot of other people are saying, it's very clear that this device has changed the framework of our society. And whether you're in Southeast Asia or America or Europe or South America, it's universal. This has changed everything from a practicality standpoint. But if you're fearful to go in because it's not what your parents want, or because you're not willing to pay the sacrifice of time and eat shit for 5 years to get what you want, it doesn't matter that you're knowledgeable, that YouTube and podcasting and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter or LinkedIn work on this platform. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I sit here for the next 45 minutes and tell you that in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Singapore, in the collective Southeast Asia, besides mainland China, that Instagram story ads are so underpriced that if you spend $1,000 on them and actually put good content in there, whatever you're trying to accomplish will happen. It doesn't matter if I tell you that. How many people here consume my content? Raise your hands. Thank you. The reality is, and you probably know this, there's not many things that I believe in. There's only 7 to 10 things I believe in. I say them over and over every day in different ways. But if you consume my content, it's very unlikely I'm going to say something in this 30 minutes that's so different than what you've heard from me. It's kind of the way I think about getting into shape. You've heard for 20 years that it's exercise and eating right. You just wish it was a pill. To me, the concern I have and why I've started this talk the way I have is because I'm concerned about what you're going to say. A lot of people don't know what to say. They're insecure. Why would somebody listen to me? And so what they start to do is fake it. They start to pretend they're an expert. They start to wear clothes that makes it look like they're successful. They fake it. It will never work. It will never work. What you're much better off doing is documenting your journey. You don't need to be an expert. You need to be honest. If you notice, sometimes I said it earlier, if I talk about the same stuff, and once in a while somebody will leave a comment, or even here will be like, Gary, you talk about the same shit. And I look at them like, do you want me to lie and make up shit? Of course I talk about the same shit because I've been running businesses for 20 plus years and it works. And when I look at other businesses that work, they're doing the same thing I'm doing. And then when I look at other things, I see businesses sometimes that work for a year and then collapse because it's what I've been talking to you about for the first 15 minutes, which is if you're going to be built on shit, you're going to sink. You like that one? That was a good one. I like it too. Like a shit, it's soft. I get it. Judgment is very interesting to me. I've come to realize in the last 3 years that it is judgment that is stopping 90% of this audience. Especially when you go into different subcultures, it is scary to me how many of you are not doing things because you're worried about what your parents would think. You're worried about disappointing your parents. You're worried about the leverage your parents have. And that is unbelievably true in every culture, but obviously quite true in this culture. Judgment is the number one thing that I need to break you out of for you to even begin to make content on social networks. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be right. You need to stay in your lane. You need to talk about what you know. You need to talk about what you're passionate about. You got to talk about either what you like or what you know. But you can't worry about the comments. Are you really going to live your life based on somebody anonymous saying that you're ugly or not smart? Yet almost everybody does. The amount of people that refuse to post or stopped posting because of a negative comment is remarkable, or because of a snarky comment by their brother or best friend or girlfriend. It's remarkable to me how grateful I am, how thankful I am that I was parented in a way that built self-esteem, confidence.
Believing something can be done paves the way for creative solutions. Believing something can't be done is pure destructive thinking. This applies to all situations, little and big. Political leaders who don't genuinely believe that permanent world peace can be attained will fail in their pursuit of peace, because their minds will be closed to creative ways to bring about peace. Likewise, the salesman who doesn't believe that that prospect can be sold won't sell that prospect. But, and this is the important part, you can find solutions to business and personal problems if you believe you can. You can find a way to buy a new, larger home if you believe you can. Belief releases your creative power. Disbelief puts the brakes on. Belief is basic to creative thinking. Now, here are 2 suggestions that are guaranteed to help you develop your ability to think creatively.
First, eliminate the word impossible from your thinking and speaking vocabularies. Impossible is a failure word. The thought, it's impossible, sets off a chain reaction of other thoughts to prove it's impossible. Second, conduct this experiment. Think of something special you've been wanting to do but felt you couldn't. Buying a new television, or taking a trip to Europe, or taking a dancing class, or whatever. Now, make a list of the reasons why you can do it. Many of us defeat our desires simply because we concentrate on why we can't achieve them. But for successful people, the only thing worthy of mental attention is why they can. So find the reasons you can do the special things that you want to do, and then put those reasons to work to accomplish them.
Dr. Wernher von Braun, the scientist who was so instrumental in our manned space flight program, once said something very significant. He said, "Man belongs where man wants to go." Now that's the kind of attitude that gets things accomplished, that gives rise to positive, creative thoughts. That's the exact opposite of the kind of thinking that holds so many people back. I call that kind of thinking traditional thinking. You see, traditional thinking is the enemy of creative thinking. The traditional thinker's mind is paralyzed. The traditional thinker says, it's been this way for 100 years, so it must be good, and it's got to stay this way. Why should we change? Well, I'll tell you why change is worth risking. Change is what brings about progress. Personal progress, work progress, world progress. If you want success, the only way you're going to get success is through change. Taking some risk, thinking of new, different, creative approaches to your work, your life. Average people always have resented progress. And in passing, let me define average for you. Average should be defined as the worst of the best and the best of the worst. Average people raised their voices in objection when the first automobiles appeared, on the grounds, they said, that it was natural for us to walk and ride horses. Average people protested when the airplane appeared because people somehow had no right or business flying. Around the turn of the century, a sales executive came up with what he called the scientific principle of sales management. Oh, it received a lot of attention in those days. It even found its way into some textbooks. That principle stated that there is only one best way to sell a product, and the salesperson's job is to find that way and never deviate from it. Well, the truth is that there is no one best way to do anything. There's no one best way to mow a lawn, decorate an apartment, or run a business, or sell a product. There are as many best ways as there are creative minds. Nothing grows in ice. If we let traditional thinking freeze our minds, new ideas can't grow. So, here are some specific ways to fight traditional thinking.
Become receptive to new ideas. Welcome new ideas. Destroy those thought repellents. Won't work, can't be done, it's useless, or it's stupid. Become an experimental person. Break up your fixed routines. Expose yourself to new restaurants, new books, new theaters, or new friends. Take a different route to work some days, and take a different vacation this year. Do something new and different this weekend. If you work in distribution, develop an interest in production, accounting, finance, and the other elements of business. This gives you greater breadth and prepares you for larger responsibilities. Be progressive, not regressive. Don't say, that's the way we did it where I used to work, so we ought to do it that way here. But say instead, how can we do this better than we did where I used to work? Use forward progressive thinking in every facet of your life. Get up an hour earlier and do some daily planning, or think of some other way to vary your daily routine. Remember, traditional thinking is personal enemy number one of your creative success program.
Every day, we are reminded of one of the most basic facts of business life in this country. Successful businesses are always looking for new, innovative, and better ways of doing things. Automobile companies are constantly striving to keep up with the public's changing needs and desires. Advertising agencies constantly seek new ways to sell products. The food industry is always looking for better production and distribution methods. The search for improvement is vital, never-ending, and absolutely essential to the survival of competitive businesses. And by the same token, it's vital to the success of anyone who wants to improve his or her lot in life. Absolute perfection in any human endeavor is, of course, unattainable. This means that there's endless room for improvement. Successful people, like successful business, are always searching for a better way. You can do this too, as an important part of your personal program for success. Each day, before you begin work, devote 10 minutes to thinking, how can I do a better job today? And ask, what can I do today to encourage my employees? What special favors can I do for my customers? How can I increase my personal efficiency? This exercise is simple, but it's also very effective. Try it, and you'll find unlimited creative ways to win greater success.
I know where I come from. You know, somebody asked me, they said, Steve, why you work so hard? Because I'm running from my past. See, I'm running from my past. The person you see today is not who I've always been. God changed me, man. God turned me into this man. He been making me. God has been shaping me for a lot of years. It's like when you make mistakes. You make mistakes so you can learn. You don't learn from winning. You learn when you lose it. See, Michael Jordan, when I was telling you about them shots he made, the only reason he was making the game-winning shot, because they was losing. They was losing. You got to lose to understand the winning side of life. So I've always understood that much of my life. I done slid off track here with your question because I wanted to say something else. Whoa.
How to stay humble and grounded in a world where you're succeeding?
See, a lot of times when I'm talking, I go off into a story and then I forget where I was at.
I'll keep you on track.
I just had that moment just now. I knew y'all didn't know what I was doing because you stopped clapping. So I said, okay, cool, must be making law. Don't try to tell me. Don't try to help me now. But listen, it's important to just remember where you come from. Just remember. That's the one thing that'll keep you humble. You have to remember where you're from and you have to be grateful because it can go the other way. See, you can want to be successful, but without God's grace and mercy, you won't become successful. So why would you get there and all of a sudden swell up? I'm the greatest now. No, you're not. No, you're not. You have to remember where you're from and you have to stay grateful. There's not a day that I don't thank God for this life he's given me. There is not a single day. Because when I was homeless, you know, I made God a promise. I told God, I said, God, if you let me make it, if you just let me make it, when I get there, I'm going to tell everybody it was you. So that's my mission. See, let me show you this. Your career is what you're paid for. Your calling is what you're made for. God made me famous and I made money. That was for my career. But his calling to me was to show other people how to get a house on the hill. So that became why I was famous. To show other people how to be this way. To cross across oceans to tell my story. To cross religious beliefs. When I sat with Your Highness yesterday, he told me that Islam, this is what he told me. I'm repeating directly what His Highness told me. He said that Islam believes in all faiths, that it is a religion of peace, that Islam believes in Muhammad the Prophet, in Jesus Christ, in all of it. That is what being a Muslim is. This is what he told me. He made me yesterday comfortable with who I was.
If you are capable of causing depression to yourself, I'm saying this not without any concern for your illness or not due to lack of compassion, because that is the nature of what's happening to you. If you're causing depression to yourself, you are able to generate substantial amount of intense emotions and thoughts, but in the wrong direction. If you don't have very strong emotions, very intense thoughts about something, you cannot get depressed. It is just that you are generating thoughts and emotion which work against you, not for you. So you are strong enough to cause depression to yourself, because for you to cause a mental illness for yourself, unless you're pathologically ill, which is just a small number of people, rest are all self-created. Most of them are self-created. A few are pathologically ill, they cannot help it. It just comes from within because of genetic and other factors. Almost everybody here, if we train them towards a certain kind of thought process and emotion and push them a little bit with the outside situations, almost everybody will go lose their mental balance. They will become clinically ill. They can be driven to madness, I'm saying, because the line between sanity and insanity is very thin. People keep pushing it. You get angry, you're pushing the line. It's a thin line. In fact, when you get angry, you know you're pushing the line. That's why the expression, I was mad at somebody. You're not mad at somebody, you're just going mad. You cannot be mad at somebody. You're just pushing your sanity, the boundaries of sanity, and moving into insanity for a certain period of time and coming back. You do one thing every day, you try this, 10 minutes a day. Try intense anger on somebody. You will see in 3 months' time, you will be clinically there. Yes, just try it if you want, because if you keep pushing the line, you go mad and you come back, you go mad and you come back, one day you're not able to come back, that's all. One day you're not able to turn back, then you're clinically ill. You must understand, even if you got angry for a moment, you're already ill. Maybe you don't get the certificate of diagnosis. They don't slap a certificate on you that you're gone, but you are going, isn't it? You think it's your right to throw tantrums? You think it's your right to get angry with people? You think it's your privilege to be depressed so that you'll get attention from somebody? You keep playing this, one day you will not be able to turn back.
From occasionally you may experience low levels of physical energy, and this can affect the mind too. The important thing is, first of all, when you talk about being depressed and so on, to see whether there is… what kind of thoughts are being created in your mind during that time. Ask yourself whether, or examine whether the certain types of thinking create that feeling of depression. Thoughts like, oh, it's all pointless anyway, or what's the point of it all, I hate this world, there's no point in even struggling anymore, I'm fed up, completely fed up with life, I can't take anymore. That type of thinking. Are you aware what is the relationship between the emotion that you feel and your thought processes? Are perhaps your thoughts creating that emotion? Or could it be that the emotion is creating the thoughts? So when you are depressed, there will be certain thoughts going through your mind, and probably there will not be pleasant thoughts. So be aware of the relationship between what you're feeling, this depressed feeling of sadness, depression, you feel dejected, and your thought processes. And if in the moment of thinking, those types of thought that accompany the feeling of depression or pointlessness, if you can be there and observe those thoughts, then again, as in the first question, answer to the first question, when you recognize those thoughts, you no longer completely believe in them. You recognize them as a conditioned movement in your mind. And then you may be able to come to an acceptance of whatever it is you're feeling at this moment without adding the baggage of thought to it. So what remains then is this feeling of perhaps low energy, or it could be an activation of your pain body to some extent. You feel emotion in you that doesn't feel good, but you're then no longer fueling it with your thinking. So if there's enough awareness in you while you're going through a period of depression, allow yourself to feel what it is you're feeling, but be careful that you don't fuel it with your thinking. And if you feel what you feel, that's all you have to do is surrender to your experience of this moment. You accept your experience of this moment, which at this moment may be not pleasant, but that's what is inside you.
Practice bravery training. You know, you want to be a great footballer. We understand you've got to put in the time to practice. You want to be a great chef. We understand you've got to do the practice. You want to be a great entrepreneur. You've got to put in the hours of rigor and discipline building your business. You want to be a great chess champion. Of course, they're obsessed monomaniacally with practice. And yet when it comes to fear, we don't live in a society that values bravery training. You don't really hear people saying, go out and use this day to practice becoming fearless. And yet, you know, we all know the 10,000-hour rule. We all know the 10-year rule pioneered by Anders Ericsson at University of Florida, the preeminent researcher in the field of exceptional performance. And that 10-year rule has now been popularized by a lot of authors. But what he found was this: if you look at any great performer, they had one thing in common. They spent the equivalent of 10 years or 10,000 hours practicing their skill before the first signs of genius showed up. And so to become fearless, why not find some time every day to practice becoming fearless? Why not use whatever irritates you or frustrates you or frightens you during your day as bravery training? So let's say your supervisor walks in and says, you know, tomorrow I'd like to give you to give a presentation on that project you did so brilliantly on. And start to pay attention. You notice you start to feel afraid. Develop the mindset where you say, okay, I'm going to say yes, because that is bravery training. Let's say you go home and with your intimate partner, you want to speak up, you want to say something. Maybe you want to ask for more love. Maybe you want to ask for one of your needs to be met because you feel it's unmet. But then you feel, well, what if he or she judges me? What if I get laughed at? What if they think I'm strange? Develop the mindset where you recognize that everything that scares you is bravery training. Okay, so what I'm suggesting on the first insight is really practice becoming fearless, and you will become a fearless human being.
Let me give you 3 steps to start life change that can change your life, your personality, your lifestyle, everything can change. Here's the steps. Number 1, find out how things work. The first key to doing better is find out. To change your life, really, you need ideas. There isn't anything an idea can't change. And Schultz taught me the major problem is lack of an idea, not a problem. At first, I didn't have any money. I said to Mr. Schultz, I don't have any money. He said, that's not a problem. Now, see, up until then, I always thought it was. Right? I was confused. He said, no, the problem is lack of an idea on how to create money and wealth. It isn't lack of money, it's lack of ideas. So if you get the ideas, see, you can change anything. Now, to get ideas, you need a constant study of finding out. Now, Schoff also said, when you find out something that works, put the information in your journal. Don't use your head for a filing cabinet. Put it in your journal so that you can do the next best thing. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Go over it. And if you repeat it, go over it, sure enough, someday, some mysterious day, the idea takes root, starts to grow, and shows up in your bank account, and your dress, and your personality, and your lifestyle. But capture the ideas in your journal. Find out how things work. Schoff gave me this word for my life change. He said, study. Great word. If you wish to be successful, study success. If you wish to be happy, study happiness. If you wish to be wealthy, study wealth. Don't leave it to chance. Make it a study. Some people just go through the day with their fingers crossed. See, that won't do it. You've got to study the things that can change your economic, social, spiritual, personal life. Now, here's a qualifying phrase. And we'll have several of these qualifying phrases throughout the seminar. Here's the first one. You may not be able to do all you find out. I understand that. You may not be able to do all you find out, but you should find out all you can do. See, you don't want to wind up at the end of your life and discover that you've lived only 1/10 of it. And the other 9/10 went down the drain. Not for lack of opportunity, for lack of information. So that's number one, find out how things work. Now here's the best human virtue for finding out. Curiosity. Make a note of that. Curiosity. Be curious. You might add a word to it that'll help. Childish curiosity. What will kids do if they want to know something bad enough? Bug you. That's the phrase. They can ask 1,000 questions. You think they're through? They got another 1,000. They'll drive you to the brink. It's a virtue. When you gotta know, be like a child. In fact, Jesus, the master teacher, said, unless you can become like little children, you might as well forget it. You don't have a prayer. Excellent advice. You gotta be like children. 4 ways, in my opinion, to be like a child. Number 1 is curiosity. Number 2 is excitement. Get excited like a child over your ability to make yourself do anything for change. 3rd is faith. Have faith like a child. Adults are too skeptical. And 4th is trust. Trust is a childish virtue, but the rewards are incredible. Now here's the 2nd step to personal development. Okay, number 1 was find out how things work. Here's number 2. Go to work. You must now take action on what you found out. In doing business around the world, we call it game plan. Put together your game plan. One of the major things we teach on the weekend seminars, game plans. How to game plan your office. If you're in sales, you need a game plan. Kids need a game plan. You need a home game plan, social game plan, a business game plan. Everybody needs game plans. Financial independence, game plan. Your investment, game plan. Don't think in your head. Put it on paper. Don't operate out of your mind. Operate from paper. I often ask somebody, what are you going to do the next 6 months? And somebody starts to tell me. I say, no, don't tell me. Show me. Show me your game plan for the next 6 months. Then I can look at things and maybe I can help. But you got to operate from paper. put it on a game plan, take action on what you found out. Now here's the best word I know of to go with action. Massive. See, that'll change everything. Massive action is called the cure-all. If you're going to make calls, make a few thousand. If you're going to make contacts, make a few thousand. If you're going to knock on doors, knock on a few thousand. See, that'll change everything. Here's the language of the poor. I'll try it a time or two and see what happens. It's the way poor people talk. The guy says, well, I'll give it 30 days. 30 days. You could guess his bank balance. You've got to have a better game plan. So here's one of the major things to do starting tomorrow. Take a look at your game plan. If it isn't loaded with massive action, change it tomorrow. Action. The formula really works like this. Pick up a good idea, take heavy action. Pick up a couple of good ideas, take heavy action. That's the formula for success. Heavy action. It's a good thing we can edit all this, right? The formula for success, take heavy action on a good idea. Right? That's the ratio. Now here's the key. Don't wait till you've learned 2,000 or 3,000 things. Because that way you'll use up all the time. And you could wind up smart and broke. And hey, it's okay to be dumb and broke. But if a guy's smart and broke, that's pitiful. Don't let your learning lead to knowledge. You'll become a fool. Let your learning lead to action. You can become wealthy. And there's many kinds of wealth. I understand that. Not just money. Money's one of the least of all values. I know some people with a lot of money that are very poor. Evita sings, as for fortune and as for fame, they are illusions. They're not the solutions they promise to be. So there's all kinds of wealth, but to get a big share coming your way, you've got to have a heavy action game plan. Now here's the third step to personal development, and we'll wrap up personal development. Step number 3, it's just a little caution, and all through life we need little cautions. This one simply says, don't try to beat the system. Find out how it works, work it, but don't try to beat it. Some people learn just enough to start slicing it, shading it, thinning it, cutting corners, and looking for cheap answers. See, don't fall for that. You'll wind up with a cheap life. Find out how it works best and do it that way. Even though it seems to take a little longer, do it right. Don't compromise with right. Now, under this step, here's another key. Be a quick learner. Don't let it take long to teach you. Learn quicker. One guy said he broke his nose 7 times in the same place. Somebody says, looks like you'd stay out of that place. Learn quicker. Now, the third point here is don't be stubborn. See, some people won't change even when a better way comes. They say, well, I've been doing it this way 30 years. Hey, be ready for change. If it's a better way, go for it. But don't try to beat it. Or you'll be like the guy that went to Las Vegas. He didn't have much money, so he didn't want to risk his money gambling. But he gets to Las Vegas and the jackpot bells are ringing, the money's flowing, the lights are flashing, and he can't help himself. He's got to gamble. But instead of gambling with his cash, he decides to play the mental gambling game. And the brilliant scheme he worked out goes like this. He'd pick a number like number 3. Mentally, he would bet a certain amount of money on the number. And whether it won or lost, he would jot down that amount in his little pad. I would have won $5 if I'd have made that bet, just to keep track of it, win or lose. That way, come midnight, he can calculate how he's doing, win or loser, how much, only not his money. Keep his money. Just play this mental gambling game. So here he is around the gambling table, everybody else shelling out their hard-earned cash. He's got this brilliant scheme. Instead of betting with his money, he's betting with his mind, and he lost his mind. Which means don't try to beat the system, I guess.